Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Featherhoof.
And I'm Cindy.
And we just came back from Alita Battle Angel. So we decided, why the hell not make a movie talk out of it?
Heck, we were talking a lot about it in the car, so might as well.
Because, well, this is a weird movie because it reminded me of something. It reminded me of Golden Rule. You never go to a movie with a fan of something.
Well, it's been a while, but I have all the books, and since I've read them, it's been a little bit of time, but I mean, I was sitting there in the movie thinking, okay, this is out of place, this is out of place. They moved everything around.
Thinking. No. She wasn't thinking that. It was about every 5 minutes. They didn't do that in the movie.
No.
They didn't do that in the books.
No, they didn't do that. That's
later.
wrong.
No, that happens like...
That dog doesn't die.
That's like 8 movies later, or 8 books later, they talk about that. They don't even... Yeah, so it was a constant commentary. I was like, oh, so this is what it feels like when people watch my video game commentary videos. Huh.
Well, I should learn not to do that so much. You know, people might actually want to enjoy the movie.
But here's the fun part. Even despite that, I enjoyed the movie. Yeah,
it was very good. Based on the OVA, which I was very angry about the OVA when it came out in the 90s.
Now,
I'm happy with this.
Before, I've never read the manga. Ever. She's read all the manga. Multiple times.
And Last Order, which I was upset about Last Order, too.
I saw the OVA devoid of reading the manga, and I didn't like the OVA.
Yeah.
She watched the OVA, having read the manga, and was furious.
Yeah. I did not like the character development for Alita.
Or as she was called in the movie, Gally.
I know.
Or the OVA she was called Gally, but...
Yeah.
Well, it says she was actually called Gally in Japanese, so...
I know, but they changed the names, and then it's like you get used to hearing it one way, and then it's another way, and...
Well, that one was kind of weird, because the movie actually did a lot of that. The movie was like, okay, we're going to use some of the names from their OVA appearances and their Japanese appearances, and then we're going to use some names from the translated manga.
Yeah,
so
English.
It goes back and forth, so it's really weird. Like, for instance, Alita's Alita and not Gally, you know? So,
yeah, you're going to go one way. Don't do half and half.
Makaku is called... Gurushika, which is a bastardization of his name from Japan, which was from the OVA, which was Grusika. So it's like, okay, names are going all over the place.
Tifris was the name of the city in the sky in the book.
And in the OVA, in the original Japanese, it was Zalem, and they used that name for the movie. So it was very hard to go back and forth. So for this review, for this movie talk, we're going to use the names we know. We're going to call them...
From the book.
From the books, yeah. So if you hear us saying Tifris, understand we're talking about Zalem. If we're talking about Makaku, or, realize we're talking about Grushika. So just, if we fuck up and we say names, the wrong names, that's what we mean.
Yeah.
Because even though I didn't read the manga, I felt like I did. Because every time she would finish a book, she would, seek me out. Featherhoof, oh my god, in this book, this happened. And she basically recapped the whole book she read for me.
I have a bad habit of doing that.
Hey, some people might say it's a bad habit. I think that's good because you were passionate about it. You loved it.
Yeah.
So that shows that it was a good... If you haven't read the manga, she does not like anime or manga, generally speaking. There's a few she digs.
Yeah.
But... the fact that she would find me every time she finished a book to just recap it with passion, it's a good book series.
Yeah.
So
Last Order's not.
So, anyway, we haven't really started the review yet, but I am going to say right now, even though I want to say off the top, even though it doesn't relate to top anymore, spoilers. There will be spoilers. We are going to basically be recapping the movie, reviewing it, and talking about what we liked, what we didn't like, changes, things that kept the same, and all of that. So be forewarned right now, this is not a spoiler-free review. So, going right in, they just pick it up. The movie starts with basically the same opening shots of the manga.
The opening is that is the first couple of minutes. It starts exactly the same as it does in the book, but this is where it starts to change.
It does. But I gotta say, first off, And this is because when she and I went to see, I think we saw A Quiet Place, and we saw the trailer for this movie. Instantly, before any words were said, before any action happened, we saw Ido on screen. And we both looked at each other and went, is this a live-action Alita movie?
Yeah, I picked up on it awfully fast.
Ido, with the exception of the giant chin he has in the manga,
yeah.
This man, they got, who did they get to play him? Christoph Waltz, I'm sorry, there's no ER there. He looks... They make him up to look exactly like Ido.
They did a good job of picking characters that really fit well.
They did. It was crazy how accurate they looked.
Characters very well.
Well, we see him. He picks her. He finds her, just like the opening. Finds
exactly
her
the same.
From this level up of a human, a cyborg body, and goes, "I'm gonna fix that."
Yeah, that thing's alive. It ain't supposed to be here. I'm gonna fix it. And he takes it back to his shop, and the first thing that's different is that the assistant that he is working with is supposed to be a man.
It's an old man with a weird flat top head, and I think his name was, we looked at Gonzu. Gonzu is completely absent from the movie. He does not exist here.
And he does have a little bit of story, a tidbit of background in the book. It's very small.
But... Let's ask ourselves, is it fine for him not to be here?
It doesn't harm anything if they were to take him out, but then they place another character in there that's completely nothing like...
No, we don't know.
Completely different.
Yeah, her name is apparently Nurse Gerhad?
Yeah.
I had to look that up on the IMDb because it was not said at the movie at all. It
might have been, but...
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, there was so much...
And I think she had one line in the whole movie, and it was just sort of like, doctor, or something like that.
He doesn't say much in the book either. You only really see him in the very beginning, mostly. Yeah. So.
Well, he's one of those characters that's phased out as she moves on with her life. So it's not, it's just one of those things if you're a, fan of the books, it's like, you're like, Gonzu? Gonzu?
He's not there.
Where are you, Gonzu? Who is this lady? Who are you?
This lady. And then they go into this thing about, she doesn't have a name, she can't remember who she is, and in the book, it says, well, what are we gonna name her? And he's like, I think I'm gonna name her Alita. And he's like, isn't that your cat? Didn't he die 2 months ago? And it doesn't matter. We're gonna just name her Alita.
Yeah, I'm gonna name her Alita. Alita until she remembers her real name.
It's just then the guy's name. Like, wasn't that your cat? Didn't he die 2 months ago?
So in here though, and this was, I kind of like the way they did this. Yeah. He names her Alita. Like, how about we just call you Alita? And Nurse Gerhad just sort of looks at him like, you're really good. She doesn't say anything, but has that look of, do you really want to name her that? But then it's not touched right then and there. It's sort of like, okay. And again, changes from manga to movie. She's just up and walking and moving around and everything.
Which that's not right in the book, because in the book, well, let's start with the movie first. In the movie, she just wakes up. She's in the bed, and she has her arms and legs.
I kind of find that funny because I did like the scene because she's examining herself and realizing, this is flesh. This is mechanical porcelain looking thing. I better do I have legs? Oh, I have legs. Check that shit out. And she's like, let me just get up and walk over here.
Yeah, it's a nice scene. It's cute. It's fine. But in the book, it was different.
But the movie I actually did like because she was like this self-exploration. She looks in the mirror and she's like touching the mirror, and it's a really cool scene.
But in the book, she wakes up and it's a matter of what feels like months, because Ido is actually carrying her on his back, and he's still going through the scrapyard and everything, and he's still looking for parts, and that's where they have the conversation, do you remember anything about who you are? And she's like, no, I still don't remember, and, don't worry, we're gonna get you something, and...
I like the movie where he's teaching her to eat.
Yeah.
And she's like, here, eat this, and he hands her an orange, she goes, okay, and he's like, I
eat rind and all.
She was like, Quick story, my brother didn't like meat when he was a child, and I talked him into, as a kid, trying chicken nuggets once, and he did this thing when, he's like just chewing, but he's not swallowing, that face of, I don't know what to do with this. So my mother put a napkin in his mouth so he can spit it out. That's what he does here.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, and she goes, bleh. He's like, you'd probably like it better if we did this. And he peels it while they have a conversation, and he explains where she is and what's going on, and vaguely, of course. He speaks really vaguely throughout most of this movie. he like tells her just like the bare essential like information, and every time she starts to ask certain questions or venture in certain directions, no, we don't go in those directions. We don't talk about such things. Let's look over here. Oh, look at the bouncy ball. Look at the bouncy ball.
I don't really know if they do that necessarily in the book, but after she wakes up and after the whole scene goes past, she goes out into the street. And in the book, that doesn't quite happen like that, per se.
Okay.
You know, it was a little different. You know, the way she gets her arms and legs, and it shows a few scenes, is that Ido walks into the night and he looks all dressed up in a suit and a big hammer. Right,
but the movie doesn't even touch this yet. The movie just like it gets there.
But it doesn't. But in the book it does right away. Yeah, and you're like, who is this guy? Why is he dressed up like this?
But we'll get there as the movie gets there. We're reviewing the movie, not the manga. So we'll get to those changes as we get there. So they start introducing characters really fast. They introduce Hugo right away.
Yeah, but he wasn't in there right away.
Now, he doesn't show up till like book 2, 3. Like he's actually introduced way later. He's like, hey, here's Hugo. Here's Hugo's friends. Here's Dr. Shirin, which I believe was I think she wasn't in the manga, was she, Dr. Shirin? Or at least not here. The lady doctor with the Tifer's dot.
She was not in it. Though Vector did have a nurse, female assistant that was with him, but it didn't look like her.
Yeah,
it looked like another woman. It looked like Ido's assistant, basically.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. They introduced Vector. They introduced it's just boom, boom. They introduced the what are the sentry bots called? The big robots, move out of the way, citizen. Big bobits.
Yeah.
They just it's character introduction, left and right, just boom, 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 boom. Okay, we got all of them out of the way, and they introduced Motorball really fast. And they
didn't in the book. I mean,
yeah, it's like she's like, ooh, what is that? He's like. And again, it's another one of those things like, that's Motorball. We don't talk about that. Move along.
They might have introduced like little tiny snippets in the book in the very first book about Motorball. But it's like one little picture or something. Yeah. They didn't talk about it extensively like they did in the movie in the very, very beginning.
Now here's where we get our first big divergence. In the book, Alita's at first just a life support torso that he adds to. In this one, he has a full developed body to just attach to her. And Shirin sees Alita walking in the streets and like you little girl, and she starts looking at her like oh my god, what the fuck? And she's like, what's your problem? And next scene we see Shirin just goes to Ido and goes, you son of a bitch, you said you destroyed that.
Yeah.
Because turns out Shirin and him were a couple.
Yeah, which didn't exist in the book.
And they had a daughter who was paralyzed from the waist down. And apparently they were going to replace all her body because they had a whole body ready for her.
Yeah.
But even though it looked like her arms still worked because she was working the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And she was killed in it. At this point we don't know how. It's just she was killed.
Yeah.
And she's none too happy about that. You could tell she feels she's being... Even though they're not together anymore, that you're trying to replace us sort of anger.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is different, but not bad. Yeah. Not bad. So it's a lot of Alita walking around, and I think this is around the time she and Hugo start to hit it off. Where she's hanging out with Hugo a lot more and learning street motorball.
Yeah.
And playing with her friends. Which, how's that go?
Well, Well, the thing is, it's like, in the book, they didn't really... Hugo didn't introduce her to Motorball.
Mm-hmm.
She found out about, like, really wanting to get into Motorball after Hugo died, because she was obsessed.
Spoilers. We're not there yet.
But if I'm comparing the book to the movie,
yeah.
That's where the divergence is. It's
right.
that there is, like I said, snippets of them talking a bit about Motorball in the first book, but not extensively like they did in the movie.
But in this one, all the kids play Motorball. All the kids are out there like street hockey. It's basically like street hockey.
Yeah.
And what's his friend? Hugo's friend Tanji is he's not a big fan of Alita's.
No.
What did he do? How did he treat her when they were playing the game?
Well, they basically like tripped her or whatever.
Like cross checks her across the throat.
Yeah.
Like she's at the ball and she's like barely standing up on these skates, and he's like, "Brr!"
I kind of thought that scene was sort of pointless. I guess it was meant something because of how they're writing the movie, but it wasn't even in the book.
It's sort of character building for Hugo's friends. It's to introduce them and to build them a little bit. The girl Koyomi, she's a little more accepting of Alita. She's just friendly. Tanji is just like, fuck this chick. I don't care. And he's just a dick to her.
There were certain characters that...
I love Alita's revenge on him.
Yeah.
Where suddenly she's like, you can see little snippets of it throughout the movie. She gets like little bits of her combat come to her. Like suddenly she's like, boom, she can do skates. And she just like wrecks Tanji.
Yeah.
In like this crazy acrobatic way.
Yeah.
Like he tries to cross check her and he's like, she takes his arm, flips around behind him and like kicks the skates out from underneath him. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
He face plants into the concrete. It's like, oh shit. So tell us more. What happens?
Let's see. After that happens with the roller derby. I think this is the time now where we start to get Ido's shady nighttime dealings. That happened in the beginning, before all this introduction stuff and derby stuff.
Well,
we talked about that shady going out at night with a suitcase and a hammer, and that was like first couple pages of the book, though. Yeah, in this one, in the book, you can tell it's written differently from manga to movie, because in the movie, we're seeing everything from Alita's point of view. Yeah.
We very rarely in the movie, I think there's maybe 2 scenes in the whole movie where we see something that Alita doesn't. It's like very rare we get scenes where we see something that Alita's not there to see. In the manga, they are really ready to show you everything about the world. He's like, you get the first glimpse of like Alita like sort of like is woken up in the middle of the night and she just sort of sees him going out and she's sort of like, well, that's weird. And they sort of like just skip it for a little bit. They're like, okay, next day, Alita's hanging out with Hugo and his friends, and they start to. No, was it? Am I getting messed up? No, let's stick with the Ido stuff for now. We're not gonna go chronologically. We're just gonna try and talk about the movie in general.
Yeah.
Let's stick with Ido, and then like a couple nights go by, and she starts to follow him.
Yeah.
Because she starts hearing these reports of women being murdered.
Yeah.
And he comes home and his hand's all bandaged up, and she's like, uh-oh, and he was out last night, and another woman was killed last night, and he's got a bloody thing on his hand.
Yeah.
And she's like, what happened to your hand?
Well, you see, that's... I don't know if I'm 100% accurate with the book, because it's been a long time since I read them, but, if we're following the book and comparing it to the movie... when he would turn in a bounty, he was a bounty hunter, even though they didn't state it right away, they would chop off the head and turn it in for the bounty, and the body was left behind, and that's where he got a lot of his parts from. And she was pieced together, Alita was, from parts from these bounties.
Yep.
And like her arms had those decorative designs on it because it was part of one of those bounties that showed it in the book where their arms extended outward.
Yeah.
It wasn't his daughter. And it showed a poster in there saying these are the 6 women, or 6 whatever, there's people that have been killed or whatever.
Yeah.
So this feeling that Ido has this, like, mysterious dark background. You almost think at the beginning that he might be a bad guy.
Yeah,
they didn't talk about the bounty thing just yet in the very beginning.
Well, they mentioned Hunter. What are they? The Hunter somethings. Let's go on bounty hunters. Like Hugo introduced because we see Zapan, and he's like, oh, he's a bounty hunter, and you could see he's looking for his next bounty, and so it's like briefly touched upon, and you can see like after like I think it was like this third night she like starts to follow Ido.
Yeah.
And actually kind of like the way they did it in the movie where she's like on that catwalk and she like sees the woman.
Yeah.
And she runs over and she sees Ido.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, he's gonna kill her. No, don't do it.
Yeah.
How does that work out?
With the killing?
Yeah. What happens there? What happens when Alita tries to stop Ido from committing murder?
Well, doesn't happen very well.
Because okay, it's like Ido's like, no, Alita, don't, and he turns around like, oh no, she's gone. Why is she gone?
Yeah.
And he's like, Ido, don't kill me. Like, Alita, don't move. Just he's telling like he knows what's going on. She doesn't. Like, just don't. And you hear stompy footsteps. He turns around, and this huge dude, a huge motherfucker in a hood and cape, comes up behind him, and another dude then comes from down the alley, and I think the other dude was supposed to be what was his name? I think the other dude who's there is supposed to be Kanuba. He looks a little different than he looked in the manga, but it doesn't matter because when Ido starts to get his butt kicked, Alita just begins to proceed to wreck the crap out of all of them.
Yeah.
This is probably the scene this is the scene that they like released online everywhere. They're like, here's the exclusive scene of Battle Angel Alita Battle Angel. And I don't know who that chick with the stabby arms was.
I think it was a different character in the book, but the fighting style was the same.
Okay.
You know, like the same moves Alita used in the book with the spinnies and the flippies and everything, and smacking her up against the wall, and she gets splattered up and dies and everything.
Okay.
Looks the same, so I'm thinking the characters are just slightly different.
Oh yeah, she like kicks her head into the wall, and the whole body's like up against it for a little while, and then like the body falls, and you're like, oh, and then it's headless, and you look up, the head is just squished into the wall. It's
that's
like,
kind of the way it happens
shit.
in the book, but the body stays attached.
I think that's what happened to Kanuba in the book. I think instead of the stabby arm chick, like she kills Kanuba by just like punching him to death.
Yeah.
She like knocks him on the ground, just bam, 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 bam. And then has her first fight with what's it? Grushika. Which in the manga was called Makaku? Yeah, Makaku. And so I actually had this all up because it's all these names that I don't know. And someone's not being talky enough. They changed some things here, didn't they?
Well, Grushika, the battle scene was very much the same.
Okay.
But, and I'm thinking of the right character, hopefully. He is this way because of Nova.
Right.
And because Nova found him in the sewer, and he does explain this a little bit in the movie, but in the book he does a better time of explaining this at the very end when Alita, like...
Well, yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, but anyway, he is different because he needs to eat brains.
Yeah, he's in like constant pain, isn't he?
Because he's always in pain, yes.
Yeah. See, well, okay, we'll get there.
There's a reason why he's in pain.
Yeah, so, but in this one, she does this awesome scissor kick. And then, while she's doing it, has a flashback to her times at the Mars War on the
There's
moon.
no flashback in the book, but they...
And she uses this aerial scissor kick, come down, and just chops his arm off.
Yeah.
With her foot. And he flees. In the manga, it was... she wrecks his body so bad to the point where it actually turns out he's actually like a slug, like a mechanical slug inside of a body. Like it's still his head, but it's attached to like a spinal cord that moves like a slug or snake.
There are several times that she meets him, that they have a battle, and they do that in the movie too.
Yeah.
And when he escapes the first time, he goes back down into the sewer, and he's
Oh, okay.
like, I will come back for you. And
Yeah.
I think he does say, you little flea.
Yeah,
You
that's like his
know?
little catchphrase.
Yeah, and I think that stayed the same from the book.
Okay.
But yeah, he's like, I'll come back, and he comes back with even bigger, badder ass body. I can't remember exactly if there was a chopping off of the arm and all, but
Well, I can remember he escaped because we were going over the manga. He escaped after she wrecks his body, and then like he does his little snake slug form and like slithers away, like after like doing something with his like he has like a spike that comes out of his head, didn't he?
that's further along.
Oh, that was for the okay. That wasn't
That was
that fight.
another
Okay.
battle, and when he does get separated from his body, he is that snake sluggy thing. Yeah. He has a spike on his head, which is actually dynamite. It'll blow everything up.
Well, that's what I kind of liked about. Well, I mean that they actually even though they didn't really use it, they referenced it in the movie because he goes back to Shiren for repairs. Turns out he was in this version he was a former motorball contestant that just can't. I
don't think that was in the book like that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So she comes to him, or he goes to her rather, and when she's doing repairs on him, she lifts up his head part, and you see the spine like wriggling as it's like just dangling there. And Nova comes in, and that's when Vector comes in. He's like, why are you bothering with this motorball has-been?
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, well, you know, you just repairing him, and I noticed, you know, I'm seeing a lot of this recently. This like someone's installed things on a bunch of people to, you know, almost like they're using them as like mobile cameras or something. I'm not quoting verbatim here, but almost as someone's hijacking these people. And then Grushika starts talking with a voice that's not his own. Like, it's still his voice, but it's not the mannerisms. And they're all like, Nova. Oh, Nova. Oh my God.
I don't remember seeing a Nova influence immediately. I don't remember anything saying that there was some kind of like, you know, Nova taking over someone else's personality. I didn't say anything about that until at least like book 5.
Well, I kind of like how they're doing this. I like how Nova's this all like omnipresent watcher. He's watching through all the eyes of anyone and everyone. He could be anybody. I
mean, maybe there might have been some weird tiny little influence somewhere in the first couple books, but I really didn't sense it.
Well, in the movie, he basically tells Shiren and Vector, that Alita person, we need to kill her. He doesn't say why. And one of my favorite parts is when
he didn't really state that he wanted to, like, Nova didn't state immediately he wanted to kill her. He was more fascinated with her.
It was like an unhealthy obsession.
Yes, and he had this obsession because he likes to collect people and things and objects and experiment on them, like he did Grushika.
Yeah.
Because Nova, that's the first time you really kind of hear about Nova, is that he explains that, you know, when he was a child, Nova found him in the sewer and then gave him purpose to life.
Yeah.
His life was all full of pain, but Nova helped eliminate that pain by giving him this desire to eat brains for endorphins.
Yes.
That would help with the pain. So that's kind of when you hear about him is then.
Yeah. So my favorite part of the scene, though, is when Shiren's like, when Grushika stops talking, you know, Nova stops talking through Grushika, she's like, oh, I think he's gone. And she looks over, and Vector goes, he's not gone, my dear. And he looks over, and Vector's got these blue eyes now. His eyes are suddenly blue.
Yeah.
And now Nova's talking to her through Vector. So it's really neat. So now we have our bad guys. We have Shiren, Vector, and Nova. And the plot now becomes these people are trying to kill Alita.
Yeah.
This is about the time where Hugo takes Alita to her first motorball match. And she go to the pit crew, and then Vector gets his first sighting of Alita from across the pit crew. They explain about the whole, the final champion of motorball gets to go up to Tiferus. You know, is the only way to get the Tifris and so on and so forth. And they see this one motorball contestant guy who has like stretchy fingers that like rip people apart. And Vector doesn't like him. Vector's like, he's ruining the odds. We can't have that. And the next scene, Hugo's like, hey, Alita, I need, because he gets a call or something like that, doesn't he? Or does Tanji and his friends come up or something? No, Tanji and his friends come up, and they're like, Hugo, we gotta go now. Let's go. And he's like, okay, Alita, I gotta go. You're okay by yourself? You can find your way home? He's like, yeah, that's cool. I got it.
Yeah.
And next thing we see is that motorball guy with the stretchy fingers, he gets ambushed by 3 or 4 dudes on motorcycles and in a truck. And they, like, paralyze him and then begin to chop his arm off.
Yeah. And
Vector comes up and taunts a little bit. And he goes up to one of the dudes chopping the arm off, takes his mask and hood off. It's Hugo.
Yeah.
Another big change from the original. No, not big change, but minor. This is a minor change. But it actually changes the character of Hugo. The feeling of Hugo. Because what was he? He was different in the manga. What was he doing?
Well, in the manga, Hugo was, when you first are introduced to him, he is on top of Ido's building. He's repairing a fan of some sort. And that's when he first meets Alita. She's sitting up on the roof. Right,
but I mean, as far as the difference between the movie and the manga, instead of collecting parts, he was doing what?
Well, it changes his personality because he basically doesn't remove arms and legs in the book. He removes spines, and so they kept it a little more PG-13 than rated R.
Yeah, it's, because he kills, basically by removing the spines, he kills them.
Yes, but the reason why there's spines instead of arms and legs is that they consider the spine and the brain to be the most important parts. Mm-hmm. It's very graphic in the book.
Yeah, it's incredibly graphic. That's another thing that was changed in the movie, is the level of graphicness.
Yeah.
But they censor some things and don't others, and it's really weird.
Yeah.
Like, what was the first thing? Like, they, there was something that they didn't show. Well, instead, like I said, the ripping off of mechanical parts as opposed to ripping spines out is like, okay, you're going to change that, but in other parts of the scene, we see people clean cut in half.
Oh yeah, but that's
faces
accurate
cut
to the
off,
book.
And yeah, it's like why did they not censor those?
Yeah, but
they censored this.
Some things they kept pretty accurate too, like when they chopped half that guy's face off. They did that in the book.
Well, actually, that was more graphic in the book.
Yeah, well, not really. It was pretty accurate. It was a slice completely crossed.
So Hugo, and this is actually my first complaint. This is when I've noticed that they have to, because I don't think a movie-going audience would get the true complexity of Alita, the manga. Mm-hmm. In Alita, the manga, everything is grayscale. Nothing is good or bad. You're doing what you gotta do to survive. Yeah. With Grushika, with Hugo, they do some horrible things. Ripping spines out, eating people's brains. But there's always this sympathetic backstory. Here in the movie, everything is like, no, Hugo's a good guy because he doesn't kill them. He just paralyzes them and then takes parts off of them. No. And that's not as bad as ripping their spines out and murdering them. In Grushika and in the other spectrum, Grushika's just a monster in this one. There's no redeeming factors. There's no sad backstory to him. It's just like, he's just this monster of a motherfucker hired to murder things.
You don't really get the sad backstory until the very end when he's dying, and
then that's one sentence.
Yeah.
I mean in the movie. Oh, you mean in the manga?
In the book.
Okay, the manga, yeah.
Yeah, but this is after Alita gets her Berserker outfit, and she is able to create a plasma bubble. So
yeah, but we're way before that still.
Yeah.
So this is when they go to actually, speaking of the Berserker body.
Yeah.
This is when, in the manga, they never go outside Iron City, do they?
No, they don't. In fact, how they find the Berserker body in the book is that Ido finds it before he finds Alita, and he stores it away, saying, well, maybe one day there might be a person that could use this body. I don't understand the tech. Yeah. And then finds Alita. In the movie, the kids say, let's go take you outside of the city and show you this ship. Maybe you'll have a connection. And, of course, she goes in there and finds the suit and brings it home.
Yeah, she's able to, like, subconsciously, like, just... The ship's reacting to her because she was a part of the United Republic of Mars something. Or ERM, as they call it. ERM. And, she's... Yeah, of course, she doesn't know this yet, but, you know, so she's able to, like her, like, almost subconsciously, she's, like, putting her hands out and, like, entering codes, and she doesn't even realize she's doing it half the time.
Yeah.
And she brings back the Berserker body. And Ida's like, Ida, look at the body thing I found. Oh my god, isn't this cool? Yeah. And unlike the manga, Ida's like, I will never put you in that body.
Yeah.
Because blah, 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 blah.
In the book, he puts her in the body after she destroys the first body that is a pieced together, you know,
like
pieces.
Amalgamation.
Yeah, and it was
thing.
after that first battle, he realizes that she needs this outfit and that there's a good chance that she might connect with it. So he gives it a shot and sees if her body will accept it, and it did.
And in this version, he does not want her to fight. He doesn't want her to get hurt. He refuses, because she's now, like, she realized she got a little snippet of her past through fighting. Yeah. And now she wants to keep fighting. Now she's like, that's how I got my past. If I keep fighting, maybe more of my past will come to me. So she goes out and, like, starts instigating fights.
Well, on top of that, on top of the body thing, there is also the bounty hunter thing. In the book, when she wants to become a bounty hunter is after she sees Ido do it for the first time. She then goes the next day to the factory and gets it done. And then Ido does get mad at her, so that is accurate. Here,
it's not the next day. Like, at first she's like, I want to bounty hunt with you and we can be a team. And he goes, no. Yeah. No. Foot down. It isn't until, like, several days later where she gets just fed up with Ido's coddling that she's like, you know what? I post the line, she's like, whose rules do I live by? Mine or his? And she's like, mine. So she just does it. And then she goes to Kansas.
You see, that's where
name of the bar. It's the name of the bar, not the state.
Yeah, that's where there's a little bit of confusion also, because in the book they had that fight prior, and she was nothing but a torso, a head, and one arm. She launches herself, puts the arm through the eye.
We're not there yet. We're getting there with the movie.
But that is when Ido also gets damaged at the same time with a spear through his chest. And
yeah, in the book she takes up bounty hunting because Ido can't.
Well, so, I mean, after they get injured, Ido takes her and both of them to a phone, calls his assistant to go get them. That's when they go down to Kansas, the bounty place.
Okay. In this one, she goes to Kansas right after becoming a bounty hunter, because this is where all the bounty hunters go. This is like the bounty hunter bar. Yeah. It's like bounty hunters, when they're not bounty hunting, go to this place to mingle. And she then proceeds to try and give this, you know, end of the third act speech to inspire everyone to the grand fight. You know, Grushika is, you know, he doesn't have a bounty on his head because someone's protecting him. And what are you? Are you mice or men? Who's with me to fight Grushika? And they all just go, what the fuck is wrong with her? And she's not too happy about that. So Zapan, the lead hunter, he's the best hunter there, with his sword. He has technology on it. He has a sword that he never really said where he got it from. He has a sword in the manga, but it isn't an sword, right?
Yeah, it's just it's a sword.
And he then proceeds to, like, talk down to her. And he's like, oh, he's got this little Australian accent, and he's like, oh, you think you're one of us now? And he's like, you see, over here, she's got 200 confirmed kills, and he's got 500 confirmed kills, and blah, blah, blah. And what are you? What are you, little rookie? What you gonna do? Maybe I'll take you under my wing if you leave Meat Boy behind, because Hugo's there, because he's always around Alita. And she proceeds to then insult every last one of them and start a bar fight. Yeah. Because, that's what you do. Yeah. And that's when Ido comes in, and I love how he stops the entire bar fight with one sentence.
Yeah.
If you stop now or no more free repairs, and then
Everybody just stops.
I love that shit.
Just stops everybody in the room.
They all are like, "Oh shit, is he serious? Stop no more free repairs? Oh fuck."
Yeah.
I love that shit. And that's where Grushika comes in. Grushika, let's just say what's the exact opposite of politely knocking on the door? He
just walks in.
Well, he Kool-Aid mans it.
Yeah.
He's like, boom! Oh yeah! I'm here to kill her specifically. Everyone else back off.
He still just walks right in. There's steps.
Oh yeah. Kansas
is like down in the basement of some place, so.
And every bounty hunter there just goes, okay, have her. It's like, wow, this place is awful. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get the big fight between Grushika and Alita. It's a badass fight because he starts to fight her in the bar. They sort of combine two of their fights into one fight from the manga. Like two meetings of theirs, they mix it into one meeting.
Now that one fight, basically Alita brings Ido down there. Ido doesn't find her, and then that guy shows up, and then there's a baby hanging in there, and he steals the baby, cuts a hole in the floor, jumps down into the ground. A dog goes after the baby because the baby is important to the family, and the dog cares, and then Alita jumps after them because she don't want no baby to get hurt.
They changed that in the movie. There's no baby in the movie. The bartender does not have no baby.
There's a dog.
There's a dog, and Grushika
gets killed.
This is sort of what bugs me, the difference between the manga and again, because the way they change motivations.
They change the feel of certain things.
In this one, Alita's just fighting because she wants to get her memories back. In the manga, she was doing it to save the baby.
She actually has a lot of interactions with people in Rust City and cares about a lot of different interactions with those people. Like the baby, the dog, like many things.
And here, Grushika kills the dog just to antagonize her. He doesn't do it, he doesn't antagonize her by stealing a baby. He just antagonizes her by killing a dog. And here, this is where she gets her characteristic eye markings.
Yeah.
In the movie, she gets it from the blood of the dog. She dips her fingers in.
An innocent creature, yeah.
In the manga, it's Grushika's blood, isn't it?
I think so, because it was down in the
sewers,
underworld city or sewers. And it's I was looking at the book and it was a little hard to tell exactly what it was from.
It was just a puddle of blood. It could have been hers, it could have been his.
There was some liberty there that they could have taken.
So he breaks the floor, jumps in and goes, come down to my world. So she does. And here we get all of Grushika's backstory in one sentence, in like two sentences. This is where I was born and raised, after I was thrown away by my parents, and Nova found me and made me stronger. The end. That's the end of his explanation.
More in the book.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if they went by the book, we would have been sitting there for like 30 minutes just listening to Grushika give his back. It was like 45 pages.
No, it wasn't. It was 2 pages.
It felt like more.
No, it was 1 or 2 pages. And,
And this
I think it was his blood because Alita thought after she heard his story that she felt like he was kind of an innocent person at one point in his life when he was a child, and Nova took him and made a monster out of him.
In the movie, he's just a monster. That's it. He's a monster that fights Alita sometimes. They take a lot of complexity out of the manga. But again, we'll talk about this at the end when we're giving our final review, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
So here they have almost a shot-for-shot remake of their fight from the manga. Like, she's doing the same flips, the same things, like diving through. Like, he does this thing where he like spins the finger, his extendo fingers. Yeah. Because he now has the extendo fingers, from the guy that he ripped off the other guy. He does this thing where he cones them, and like Alita just going through like this flying punch through them, and all of a sudden she realizes, oh, they all hit me, and they chops her into like 12 pieces.
Yeah.
And he gravely holds her by the hair and talk about how he's going to turn her into a living pendant so that he can...
That's in the book.
So I can hear your screams every morning begging for mercy.
That's the book.
And I love her line, fuck your mercy. And it's she proceeds to whoop his ass with nothing of her body but like her chest, one arm, a nub of another arm, and her head. She just starts dodging by doing one-arm push-up jumps.
Yeah.
Until finally he's like, oh, what are you gonna do, little flea? Huh? What you gonna do? And she does this badass thing where she cocks her arm, pushes super hard so she flies through the air and stabs him in the eye.
Yeah.
It's like, dude!
Yeah.
Holy shit! But another change. This time her arm doesn't break off in the movie. She pulls her arm out. And Ido finds her. He runs away like a little bitch. And Ido then concedes. Shit. She's just gonna keep fighting. I guess I better put her in that berserker body thing. Seeing as I don't have another backup body, too.
Yeah.
So he does. Meanwhile, Grushika goes back to Shirin and Vector. Nova talks to him through Vector again, and Grushika's like, oh shit. Nova, I'm so sorry. It's like, you continue to fail me, Grushika. I am displeased. You could sort of tell, even though we haven't seen Nova yet. Yeah, I love that the way he talks through Vector. When he talked through Grushika, you can hear the intelligence in his voice, his intimidating presence.
Yeah.
And it's really, I like his characterizations. I don't really like what they changed of him, but I like his characterization. So Alita now has her berserker body.
Yeah.
And she's gonna go. And is this where she just goes after a brief, getting used to her body? She just goes straight into motorball from this point forward.
Pretty much.
And Ido's not happy about it, but he helps her?
Well, that's not really accurate to the book either, because Ido isn't helping her. He was looking for her after
she ran away.
And ran away. And she's supposed to have somebody else that was her coach that was helping her out.
Yeah.
And her personality was very different when she entered Motorball.
That's right. She entered in the movie. She entered Motorball because Vector tricked Hugo into tricking her into joining us, so that Vector could have a chance to kill her during her tryout.
Yep.
And they called it a stock exhibition match. And Ido's in the stand and he's looking at all of the other participants there, and he goes, those are not stock players. He's looking at those this is the one line that Nurse Gerhard has. It's like, what do you mean? That's her line. That's her only line in the movie. And he goes, those two in the back have bounties on them. Those three are professional players, and those three are hunters.
Hunter Warriors.
Hunter Warriors! That's the name. He's like, and he tries to call it Alita. He calls her on, I guess, their brain phone. Because they're somehow talking. And he's like, this is a trap, Alita! They're trying to kill you! And she's looking around, she's like, which one? And he goes, all of them!
Yeah.
And then she proceeds... Oh, wait, no, yeah, then she has to deal with that. Meanwhile, Hugo is trying to get there on time, and he's going to... he's decided to quit stealing people's body parts. Yeah. So Alita's like, are you going to come to my tryouts? What's wrong with you? He's like, I got a thing to do. And he meets up with Tanji, and while Tanji and the other girl, Kiyomi, are stealing body parts off a dude, and he goes, dude, I'm out. Fuck you, I'm out. And they have a little fight. Tanji's not too happy about it. And Zapan shows up. And he's now trying to hurt Alita. He can't hurt her physically, because he already got his butt kicked. So he's going to hurt her emotionally.
Yeah. By
murdering Hugo. Which, as a hunter, he can't do. He can't murder. That would be bad. But what does he say? He says, he's like, it's not against the law to kill a murderer. He's like, but I never killed anyone. I paralyzed them. I took their body parts, but we never killed. He's like, but what about this guy? And the guy's sitting there like, I'm not dead yet. And Zapan goes, yes, you are.
Yeah.
And just cups. Oh, look what you did, Hugo. Oh, bad boy.
Yeah.
Tanji gets, let's just say there's more of Tanji to go around now after Zapan gets done with him, because he tries to save And Hugo is on the run. Well, and while Alita's now fighting for her life in the motorball tournament, or in the tryouts, not tournament, Hugo calls him, I'm in trouble. Zapan's trying to kill me. I need you now. And she's like, worst possible timing, Hugo.
Yeah.
This is actually a badass scene. One of the things I loved about even the Alita manga, the fights are just epic.
Yeah.
And in this, like, she is fighting, there's 3, 5, 7 other robots specifically designed to kill, maim, and torture by herself on roller skates.
Well, that is accurate to the books. They were all trying to kill her, but the reasoning behind it was different.
Yeah, because Vector actually is paying all of it. It's like the first one to kill Alita gets a 500,000 credits and a trip to Tifris. And they were all like, oh, hell yeah. So she murders them all. Even on the street, like, she takes the fight out of the rollerball tournament to get to Hugo. Yeah. And some of them follow him. And she, like, oh, I love it. She, like, tricks the one hunter warrior into getting cut in half. And then she, like, throws the chain into the grinder to kill the other one. Which is like, holy shit.
That whole scene of her running and jumping through the screen and everything, that was not in the book, but...
But it's fine.
What was in the book was that the motorball was such a violent sport that a lot of times these guys that were players would get thrown into the audience and people would die, so yeah.
So in other words, European soccer.
Yeah.
There we go.
It was, basically.
So, so she goes to save Hugo. Doesn't quite get there in time, because Zapan catches up with him first, and she sort of can't stop Zapan, because it's also against the law to interfere with a hunter's hunt.
Yeah, because he has a bounty on his head, and so, you know, he's been claimed as the hunt, as a bounty from that hunt, so...
But then Alita goes, no, he's my hunt. And he goes, well, if he's your hunt, then you gotta kill him. Are you gonna kill him? Are you gonna do it? Basically egging her on. And he goes, here, let me help. And then stabs Hugo with the sword.
Yeah.
She's not too happy about that. Because the big security drones come and everything, and they're like, deliver the criminal. Deliver the criminal. She goes into the church, and she's like, I don't want you know. And they have this loving talk back and forth. It's a really touching scene.
Yeah.
And Shirin shows up. She's there to finish the job. And she decides not to do it.
Yeah.
She decides to help them by cutting off Hugo's head, just and attaching his important veins and arteries to Alita's system.
Yeah.
And so she comes out, shows Hugo's head, and goes, see, I killed it. I win. I did it. And Zapan catches on. Zapan's like, you think you're going to get away with it. He goes to attack her, and the security bots are like, violation! You do not interfere with another hunter's hunt!
Yeah.
And he's like, damn it, I got caught, hoisted by my own petard.
Yeah.
So she gets mad at him, steals his sword, and then cuts part of his face clean away. I mean, Cyborg doesn't kill him, but he was really proud of his face.
Yeah.
In the manga, she cuts all of the human face away. It's like in the movie, it's just like sort of like this general area here.
Yeah.
So now, pretty much we follow the manga pretty straightforward for this last scene. They changed Hugo. Hugo gets rebuilt as a robot.
Yeah.
In the manga, he is none too happy about that.
Yeah.
He was actually, in the manga, he was actually proud of being all human. Like, he didn't have a robotic part on him. Yeah. In the manga, and the movie, he kind of takes it a little better. He doesn't really seem to care about being a robot.
Well, in the book, he actually was really upset about it because he did not want to be a robot at all. Yeah. He didn't really find, any real reason to really live.
He gets so upset, he unplugs himself. I think by accident, though. When he gets out of the bed and starts trying to, run off, and he, unplugs himself and, sort of deactivates. But this next part is pretty on point. What happens?
Tries to get up to Tifris running up the tube.
He's trying to... in both manga and movie, that's his dream, is to get to Tifris.
Yeah.
And in the manga, he's obsessed. Like, Alita can't even talk to him. He's that obsessed. He's climbing one of the tubes to Tifris. In the movie, she actually talks him down.
Yeah.
The outcome's still the same. He doesn't get down in time. The defense grid activates, and it's like these shreddy circular blade saw things that like travel down the tubes. Yeah. It is actually touching. In both, for different reasons, in both the manga and movie forms, it's still touching, but for different reasons. But he tries to jump it. Don't make it. Yeah. Lita does, but he don't. Yeah. He gets... Basically, remember how Lita looked with one arm and nothing else? He looks like that. But because he's got a cheaper, scrappier body, unlike hers, he sort of... While she's holding the arm to save him, it sort of falls apart. And he falls to his death. It's a sad scene. It was... Even though the OVA sucked, it was still sad in that. It was still a good scene. Mm-hmm. And then she proceeds to go get revenge on Vector.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
Where she goes through, like, what was it, like 13 security bots?
Yeah.
I love she wrecks all the security bots and then she sort of picks up the chain gun of the one and just like it was nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna kick some ass. Gets to Vector's office, and she like, what was it? Grushika is there, tries to fight her. She doesn't break a sweat murdering him now.
Yeah.
But she cuts off all his extendo fingers, and then chops him clean down the middle. And we watch as he falls apart. Like the fleshy parts and everything, you know, because like she ripped all the metal parts apart, but like the face, like the fleshy parts, like you see them sort of like goop apart as like sort of ripped from the weight of the metal body. It's kind of gruesome. There's no blood, which is again is like, oh yeah, PG-13, but it's still like graphic to see.
Yeah, but that's the way it was in the book. It was graphic in the books.
But the books had blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Here there was no blood, none at all. And then Nova talks. I love it because she turns to Vector and goes, "Speak!" And, she turns to Vector and Vector then shows what he did to Shirin for disobeying him. She's like, "What did you do with Shirin?" And she's like, "I gave her what she wanted. She's going to Tifris." Opens this box, and there's some eyeballs and a brain, and there's a hand over there, and there's some feet back there.
Yeah.
He's like, "This is the only way anyone gets to Tifris."
Yeah.
And it's like, so he's been lying to Hugo. He's been lying to everybody. Because he says, "Oh yeah, I can get you to..." He always says, "Yeah, I can get you to Tifris. I'll totally get you to Tifris." He doesn't say how, though.
Yeah.
So that's when she turns to him and goes, she just yells, "Speak!" And he goes, "And say what? What do you want me to say?" He's like, "Not you, him." And that's when Nova takes over Vector and just sort of taunts her for a little while.
Yeah.
Nova is an asshole in the movie version. Like, even when Alita gets mad and stabs Vector's body, he's like, "You just lost a puppet." And he like looks down and goes, "Oh my, doesn't that look fatal?"
Yeah.
And it sets up Nova as this, just as a generic villain. He's like, here's the villain Alita has to get to face to kill. And then it's like, several months later, she's a fully fledged, what's it, motorball? Rollerball?
Yeah.
Motorball. Is it motorball?
Yeah.
It's motorball. She's like the announcers say, after only a few short months, this newcomer Alita is poised to be the next final champion, going up to Tifris if she wins the next couple matches. And shows her, and it like pans over, like she's like looking up at Tifris, and it like pans to Tifris, and we get to see our first real look. Like, it's shown him in flashes, but our first real look at Nova. He looks ripped right off the page.
Yeah.
They just like took the page and just went, "Come here into real life, you," and set him on the stage. And since Ed Norton is playing him, he looks identical.
Yeah.
It's crazy how identical he looks. And she just points her sword up at Tifris, and you can see, and he's looking down with his big old smile. He wasn't eating flan, though. He should have been eating flan. But he wasn't.
He was introduced too much.
And it just could have cuts there.
Yeah.
So that was Alita Battle Angel. That's our recap of it. Generally speaking, there's more we did, stuff we cut out, stuff we didn't talk about, but it's overall. What did you think of the movie?
I think it's better than the OVA.
Yeah, but saying that this movie's better than the OVA is like saying, eating chocolate is a lot better than eating garbage. It's like, well, yeah.
Yeah. They're taking their own creative liberties and redirecting the story in a different way, but they're incorporating pieces from the book as in, like, reference material, more or less.
I mean, one can honestly say that they kept the heart of it the same.
Yes, but they excluded lots of things, and then probably if they're going to make another one, they're going to exclude a lot more.
Well, that's the problem, though. A lot of people had this problem with the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, they changed so much from the book. Meh. You kind of have to. Like, the first 2 Harry Potter movies, they kept it so close to the book, the movie sucks because of it.
But because they're changing characters the way they are, I mean, they're going to be taking away a feel that the book had that's not going to be in the movie now.
Yeah, see, what was great about the Alita manga was the complexity and the tones that it really put forward. The meaning of existence, what's right and wrong. Is there really a right and wrong when it comes to survival? And what is good, what is bad, does it matter?
Well, in the book, you feel like, everybody in a sense could have a bad side to them, but they also have a good side. They have an innocent side. In the movie, you get this feeling like there are solid black and white characters.
And that's my biggest complaint with the movie. My biggest complaint with the movie is, like I said, Hugo. In the manga, he is not a good person.
No.
And he has no qualms about it either. He's like, yeah, I finds out.
He is doing what he needs to do to get to Tifris, and he doesn't care.
In here, he's like that, but he doesn't kill. He has the Batman, Spider-Man, I don't kill rule. I just paralyze them and take their body parts to sell them for money because Vector says if I raise 1 million credits, he'll send me to Tifris. And it's like, they make him a less complex character. Grushika, Vector, they make them so less complex by just making them Nova. They make him even they just rip away all of his complexity. It's just like
Nova's
these
a very complex individual.
These are bad guys. These are villains. It's like they have to do it's again. I understand why. I'm not a fan of it. The reason why, it's for a movie-going audience. Can you really get into the nuances and the complexity of each character individually in an 1.5 to 2.5 hour movie? You can't. And to get more people in the seats, it has to be simplified for somebody watching it. I get that. Because people, yes, would it be better if they put that in there? Absolutely. But it is still a company trying to make money. And they need as many butts in the seats. And if people come out of the movie going, I didn't really understand XYZ, if that gets around, people won't go watch it. So I understand simplifying things down, making Nova just a generic bad guy that Alita has to fight. Grushika's just a monster that Alita has to fight. Vector's just the typical business guy, we're only worried about money, type of bad guy that at least Alita has to fight. I think the only one who truly had complexity in here was Alita and Shiren. Like even Ido was like there was no real complexity. They didn't really show him being, any. No, I rescind that. I think Ido was also complex. What do you think?
Well, there are things that later in the books that they talk about more with Ido. His character develops a lot more further in the books. Mm-hmm. They try covering a lot by just bringing some of those pieces from further in those books forward.
Yeah.
You know, like the Mars things, for example.
Right.
That doesn't come until later, and Alita figures it out on her own.
Right.
You know, and the Ido, he ends up finding out that, you know, he isn't quite himself. You know,
Yeah.
And then the story hasn't covered any of that yet. You know, and what the dot on the head means. And,
no, the movie did cover that.
Well, it's people from Tifris.
Yeah,
but,
people born at Tifris.
But the people in Tifris don't have brains.
Well, that they don't cover in the movie at all.
Yeah, and they get those marks after they have their brains removed.
Right. Because they're born with brains, but then it's removed at a certain age.
They're not born with those marks.
Yeah.
So.
Like I said, I didn't...
And Ido is actually somebody who was cast down from Tifris because of what he was doing up there, and he was, you know, doing things they didn't like.
I think
certain
the movie...
scientists were cast down for that reason.
I think the movie actually said that he and Shirin chose to leave because they didn't want to do what they were being asked to do.
Well, Nova and him were both cast down. I think they were both part of the same academy.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a particular scene where it said... you know, it kind of suggested that they were both in part of the same academy.
Yeah, it's just...
Because they kind of knew each other. Like they were colleagues or something.
But in the movie, Nova is still on Tifris, and he's using it. He's just... he's an ever-present, omnipresent watcher from Tifris. And, like I said,
There's another thing on Tifris that is an omniscient watcher that is the one that takes all these brains and does computing power with them.
So, there's a lot changed.
Yeah.
But does it make it a bad... Alright, two questions. As a fan of Alita, does it make it a bad movie? And does it make it a bad Alita movie that they changed these things?
It kind of makes it feel like maybe they only expected maybe to make one movie. Because if they wanted to make more than one movie, I think they would have went more in depth to continue it further.
Instead of just leaving this one little cliffhanger ending?
Tiny cliffhanger, where there's some opening for them to make another movie, but I don't feel like they are planning on it until they see how things pan out with this one. They didn't even do any, like, ending of the credits thing. Like, you would think that they would if they're going to show Nova like that.
See, I was expecting, before the movie came out, before we saw that Nova was going to be in it, I was expecting those end credit stingers. I was expecting there to be, like, a thing to showing Nova to introduce him, and like, ooh, here's the next new thing.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was all we're going to get in Nova, but it didn't turn out that way. But does it make it a bad Alita movie, though? Does it do justice? As an Alita fan, do you think it does justice to the manga?
I think based on the creative talents of the people who created the movie, yes, because every artist is going to put their own spin on something, and it was fine. They changed some things, and that's okay. They kind of are making it their own, even though they actually are taking a story that another artist created and made it successful. So, I mean, it's just the way you see it. You know, it's still good. I mean, I still like the movie. Now,
let's talk about the elephant in the room we never even touched on. The one thing that when the movie was first shown, everyone was like, oh god, no! Alita's eyes.
It's fine. They have to be big. That's the way Alita's face is. Sometimes I think there was a little bit of maybe some issue with how they did it. Like the animation was good, but there were certain sections and scenes it's like, okay, this looks a little weird, but we're just gonna go with it.
I would admit, in the beginning, it was a little bit of Uncanny Valley. It's like, I see them, they stick out. Yeah. But when you just sit there and you're watching it, you forget.
Yeah, you do.
You honestly forget. It's just, oh, that's her face proportions, and you get used to it. Yeah. You never question it. There was only one scene where, after she got her berserker body, and she was talking about how she can finally feel things.
Yeah.
And Hugo's like, just close your eyes. And he starts feeling her. He's like, do you feel this? Do you feel this? And her eyes are just closed. Then it's like suddenly I was reminded, whoa, she has huge eyes. Because like the way, like, you know when your eyes are closed, you have that line?
Yeah.
The lines were like, instead of just an eye, you know, being like that long, the line of her eye was that long. It's like,
and hopefully they got too close. when they were creating it. There were a couple of scenes where I thought the same thing. It's just the way her eyes were closing.
Yeah.
It didn't quite look natural.
Yeah, the half-lidded, when her eyes were kind of half-lidded also, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like, for the majority of the movie, you literally forget. It's not like, it's not draw you in every time. You know, it's not like, if for those who watch my anime talk series with Carnage Panda, the series Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka, you know, where every time you see the character's eyes, you go, eyes! Eyes! Oh my god, look at those giant eyes! It's not like that. You actually do forget.
Yeah.
So, if you had to say, as an Alita fan, if you had to say the one characterization change that you didn't like the most, what would it be?
The way they're introducing Nova.
You don't like the way that Nova's brought into the story?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Well, the first time I really noticed Nova, where they actually show a picture of him in the book, it's like...
It's during Grushika's backstory, isn't it?
It's where he shows Ido in a box.
Oh, you mean like when he's physically there?
Physically there.
Oh, okay. Because I remember the first time they show him is when Grushika's telling his backstory.
Yeah.
In a
Nova
flashback.
kills Ido and puts him in a box. Pieces.
How big is this box? Like that big?
That big. You shove it in a box.
Because you could
really
totally fit a body in there.
Alita a lot because she just realizes that the person that cared for her and took care of her and helped her become who she is now is dead.
Yes. Or
So,
she thinks,
yeah.
at least.
She thinks she's dead.
Well, that was my biggest characterization change. Him and Hugo were my biggest... I did not like the way they changed them.
Yeah.
Nova, in the manga, again, having to strip complexity for a movie-going audience, I understand. But it's still annoying. Hugo turning from a selfish, obsessed individual to more likable, I guess you could say. More sympathetic, I suppose. That kind of bugged me as well. They sort of stripped him of his complexity that made it... I don't know, I think they tried to make when he dies more tragic by making their love story more like, aw, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, any final thoughts on Alita Battle Angel, the movie?
Well, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was a good movie. Maybe there's a lot in the books that couldn't be covered because there is quite a few books.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're able to make another movie so they can continue the story.
I hope so too. I hope this one succeeded enough. If you were to give it a score, what would you give the out of 10? What would you give the Alita Battle Angel?
I'd say an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
I would say about 7.5 to an 8 myself.
Yeah.
You know, it was... If you have a friend, if you have a friend who's a fan of the manga, just tape their mouth shut until the movie's over, and just enjoy it. It's like just like the manga. They take the manga's action scenes and they brought them to life beautifully.
Yeah.
It was gorgeously done. Like you just watch these epic fights.
Yeah. And the fights were very accurate to the book.
Just they stripped down the complexity of the characters.
Yeah.
So but just as a caveat, I don't think by stripping down their complexity made them less interesting of a characters. Just different.
Yeah.
They're now different characters. Hugo is not Hugo from the manga. Nova is not Nova from the manga. But they're not any less interesting.
Yeah.
Nova loses complexity for menace, which is okay, they did it well. Hugo lost his complexity to create a better love story for the movie, which, okay, I can get that. But any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and end this here. That was our little movie talk for Alita Battle Angel. A fun movie, you would say?
Yeah. I
think it is like, just sit there, grab some popcorn, watch it, just, so you can just go, damn, look at that, sort of things, it's just, it is a summer blockbuster. It was made by the same guy, I believe, what's his name, Rodriguez? I think he did Machete. Co-written by James Cameron. It definitely shows that, both their influences in this. I mean, even the, if I remember reading an interview, the original artist or writer of the original manga, he praised this movie.
Yeah.
So it's worth your time. I think I think it's safe to say this is the best live action adaptation of a comic book to date.
Yeah, that's done in the right time because the technology can actually create it.
Manga. I mean, correct myself. Manga. I'm not counting like the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff. Of just manga, like, you know, talking like Blood Rain and what standalone comic. What's the one? Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. That was Garbo. You know, Blood Rain was Garbo. It just these other not Blood Rain. There was another anime. It was a vampire girl in a school dress. I can't remember the fucking name it was. It was awful as well. This is definitely a template that other people who are trying to adapt manga into live action moviedom needs to watch and emulate. I you know, there's improvements can be made.
Yeah.
It just it's definitely a good starting point. So that's all we got to say today. If you enjoyed this, please let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, share it, or you can click on the annotations for other videos we've done. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.